Assalamu alaikum. I am Khalid AlArfaj, managing partner of Pillsbury AlArfaj. Our firm was created through the merger of a leading international law firm whose proud history dates back to the 1800s with a 100% Saudi law firm committed to becoming the best in the region. Our mission is clear: to invest in talented young Saudi lawyers working alongside our experienced Pillsbury partners so they one day become the leading regional partners in their sectors and help us build the region's leading law firm. In this video series, as we celebrate Pillsbury's entry into the Saudi market, I'll be speaking with some of our most accomplished Pillsbury partners worldwide, each bringing deep expertise in their fields. In just a few minutes, they will share valuable insights from their sectors. Stay tuned and enjoy. Hello. Today, I am delighted to be joined by my colleague and Pillsbury Senior Counsel, Ben Clark. Ben advises clients on energy, M&A, joint ventures, and projects worldwide, with deep experience in upstream, downstream, and energy transition investments. Based in Houston, Texas, Ben has worked extensively on cross-border energy transactions, including complex international joint ventures. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Khalid. And just by way of further introduction, I am Senior Energy Counsel in our Houston office. After starting my legal career in New York, I've practiced energy transaction law in Houston for over 40 years now. My practice has been predominantly in the merger and acquisition sector, with particular emphasis on the midstream and downstream sector. My clients have included a broad range of energy companies with an emphasis on electric and gas utilities, global energy commodity trading firms, and oil field service companies. While his practice has traditionally been involved with conventional energy infrastructure, over the past 5 years, I've become increasingly involved in energy transition matters, including transactions involving biofuels, renewable natural gas, renewable diesel fuel, carbon capture projects, and wind and solar projects. I think the energy transition area has become sufficiently active that while it varies from year to year, I would say it probably now represents roughly 50% of our practice in Houston. So it's a pleasure to visit with you this morning.
Thank you, Ben. Before we begin with our questions, I'd like you to share with our audience a brief note about your personal involvement with Saudi entities or Saudi market.
Certainly. So with a prior law firm back in the mid-2000s, I was involved in representing the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in what was referred to at that time as the Saudi Natural Gas Initiative, which was really sort of the first effort in Saudi Arabia to diversify from its traditional oil-based economy. Now, while things moved cautiously at that time, obviously a lot has changed over that period, and there's been a lot of diversification, which is why it's a pleasure to catch up with you again today. I mean, more recently, I have been representing, and the firm have been representing, a number of U.S.-based oil field service companies with activities in Saudi Arabia. And finally, over the years, I have been active representing both Saudi and other Middle East investment funds in inbound investments, energy investments into the United States. So it's we're very pleased in Houston to see our expansion in the Middle East and in Riyadh, and it's nice to discuss these matters.
Likewise, energy M&A has remained resilient despite market cycles, with investors rebalancing portfolios between hydrocarbons and clean energy. From your perspective, Ben, what are the biggest global trends shaping energy M&A and project development today?
Well, Khalid, I mean, it really is the rebalancing activity that you just described. I mean, as you know, we like to think here in Houston that Houston is the energy capital of the world, but as such, it really is no longer a traditional fossil fuel city. I think there's a clear recognition that our country's energy needs are going to need to be satisfied through a mixture of traditional hydrocarbons and clean energy. And really achieving the challenge is achieving the proper balance between traditional fossil fuel sources and clean energy, and doing so in a fashion that is consistent with U.S. legislation and the energy policy of the current U.S. administration. And it's really this balancing activity that has created considerable activity in the U.S. in the merger and acquisition market. I would say traditional strategic energy companies are active in divesting non-core assets to generate additional liquidity. And at the same time, they are active in investing in those energy sectors that are currently under favor with the U.S. administration. And I would include nuclear. I'd also include data centers, LNG, and critical minerals are all source parts of the energy sector that are viewed favorably at the current time. At the same time, I would say that in the clean energy space, there has been revisions to the energy legislation and energy tax credits, such as some of those areas who have been adversely impacted by reduced energy and tax credits, such as wind and solar, are looking at potential consolidation and also potential divestiture activities. So all of this rebalancing has certainly stimulated merger and acquisition activity.
Similarly, under Vision 2030, Saudi Arabia is driving growth in both traditional oil and gas and renewables, as well as nuclear, hydrogen with giga projects like NEOM and expansions in refining and petrochemicals. How do you see M&A and joint ventures evolving in such a dual track environment where both hydrocarbons and clean energy are central?
Well, while you are far more expert on Saudi Arabia matters, it certainly sounds like the dual track process envisioned by Vision 2030 is certainly very similar to the rebalancing activity that I just described in the U.S. M&A market. I mean, the two areas are certainly by no means mutually exclusive. It simply requires a certain level of balancing activity, and the challenge is achieving the proper balance on deployment of capital between traditional hydrocarbons and new clean energy. I mean, for example, one thing we've seen in the United States is, these two paths can also be synergistic. There are certainly traditional hydrocarbon resources that can be utilized in the clean energy sector. For example, we've seen abandoned oil and gas wells in the United States being used for carbon capture projects. We've seen gas pipelines with excess capacity being considered for the transportation of hydrogen as a new fuel source. And at the same time, in the clean energy space, we've seen some of the new technology that's been developed for clean energy to be utilized in traditional hydrocarbon development. For example, we've seen a pyrolysis process that converts plastic waste into lower carbon fuel. We've seen that technology utilized in the U.S. So there's potential synergy between the two paths as well.
Thanks, Ben. Saudi Aramco has pursued outbound investments like Motiva in Texas, while at the same time, Saudi Arabia is attracting inbound partners for hydrogen, renewables, and infrastructure projects. What are the main legal and commercial challenges you see in structuring cross-border energy M&A and joint ventures?
Well, I mean, that's certainly a broad topic that could probably take up more time than we have to discuss today. But I would identify two key areas, Holland. I mean, one of the first in M&A and joint venture activities would be, the proper determination and allocation of ownership rights to intellectual property developed by these new investment matters. I mean, that has always been a significant area in global joint ventures, but I would say with the developments in new technologies, certainly the allocation of what entity owns the intellectual property, what parties are entitled to use the intellectual property, whether those rights are exclusive, and how those are held and deployed, I think has become increasingly important in international joint ventures. The other area that I touched on, but that I would certainly emphasize, would be the proper understanding and allocation of governmental incentives and tax credits. I mean, the whole clean energy area has developed a very complex regulatory landscape in the United States in terms of governmental credits and tax credits, and certainly most recently in the U.S., what's referenced as the One Big Beautiful Bill has certainly reduced the availability of some governmental incentives and tax credits, and from an international standpoint has certainly also reduced the applicability of some tax credits to foreign investors. So a proper understanding of the governmental incentive and tax credit landscape, I think, is the other big area in joint ventures these days.
Thank you, Ben. Large-scale projects, whether petrochemical complexes, LNG terminals, or renewable hubs, require sophisticated risk allocation. Based on your experience, Ben, what are the key deal terms or structures that help ensure these projects succeed?
Well, I mean, risk allocation in global joint ventures is also a complicated topic that involves a number of factors, but I would perhaps identify all of the areas of governance, allocation of operational authority, and also timing and deployment of investment capital as very important areas in risk allocation. I mean, very frequently, international joint ventures involve both a strategic energy industry partner and very frequently a financial institution partner. The objectives of the strategic energy partner are obviously to control the ongoing operations of the project and to assure some degree of security and confidence that capital will be available to continue and complete operations. I mean, from the standpoint of the financial partner, they want to be satisfied that they're protecting themselves against downside risk in operational development while at the same time achieving the desired return on investment that their financial institution might require. So obtaining the proper balance between those partners is typically played out in the negotiation of the definitive agreements and the provisions relating to management, board representation, operational authority, and the allocation of indemnification responsibility or obligations around the responsibilities of the respective parties. So that risk allocation balancing works itself out frequently in the negotiation of those areas.
So Pillsbury has advised on M&A, joint ventures, and projects across oil and gas, LNG, and renewables. Could you share examples where Pillsbury has helped clients navigate complex energy transactions and how those capabilities might support Saudi inbound and outbound projects?
Certainly. I mean, there are certainly a broad number of examples that Pillsbury and our Houston office has been involved in, but let me just touch on a few to provide some examples. I mean, we are currently representing a large Midwestern utility in a joint venture which will involve the construction and operation of a new natural gas pipeline, which will connect gas reserves from a well-known gas field in North Dakota to the major Midwestern urban complexes. This joint venture will involve both oil and gas producers in the Midwest utility to be the primary operator of the gas pipeline, and the financial partner to provide financing. So this project will certainly include a number of the risk allocation balancing considerations that I just alluded to in our discussion on risk allocation and strategic partners and financial partners. I think another example, my partner David McCullough and myself are representing a global energy commodity trading firm in the diversification into a new advanced plastic waste recycling project, which is structured to construct and roll out new pyrolysis plants across the United States, which are designed to convert plastic waste into a lower carbon fuel oil byproduct. And that project will also involve a mixture of strategic partners and private equity financial partners. Another example, we've recently represented a large Japanese trading firm in the equity investment into a Texas-based data center project developer, which has plans to develop both a Texas data center, but also other data centers across the United States. And as part of the equity investment. The trading firm is also negotiating long-term gas supply arrangements to provide itself with priority rights to provide gas supply, which is much needed as a power source for these expanding data centers. So it's a hybrid equity and commodity gas supply arrangement, which I think we'll also be seeing more of in the United States. And finally, as I mentioned, I mean, LNG is a certainly very favored energy source in the United States under the current administration, and our office has been active in a number of projects to both develop and expand current LNG capacity in the United States. So those are some examples which I hope are helpful.
Very helpful. Ben, thank you for sharing these valuable insights on the evolving global energy landscape and its connection to the Kingdom of Energy, Saudi Arabia, and its Vision 2030. Thank you also for sharing the great work that our Pillsbury colleagues are doing in this area. Your perspective underscores not only the challenges but also the opportunities for collaboration across both traditional and clean energy sectors. We look forward to continuing these discussions with our clients and partners as Saudi Arabia and the world advance along this dual track path of energy transition and growth. Ben, thanks again. And to our audience, thank you for listening.
My pleasure, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much, Ben.